Okay, right now I'm doing a review of a free masterclass that I just took. It's a 4-day masterclass for free that's offered by a lady who a female business owner who says she used to work with individuals in government who practice remote viewing. It's a lady named Lori, and her website is intuitivespecialists.com. And in her free 4-day masterclass, she was talking about the difference between natural psychics versus professionally trained psychics who are able to engage in an investigative reporting process. And when she described where natural psychics tend to fall short, because she said literally anyone can do this stuff if they're properly trained. And when she talked about where natural psychics tend to fall short, it really described a lot of the struggles and shortcomings that I had when I was younger and I was in the church trying to learn how to be a church prophet pretty much through trial and error. You know, I was doing some, but not all of the exercises that she recommended for doing a better job. And even though I worked at it every day, I just still wasn't very good. And she helped me to, she kind of explained the biological and also psychological factors that played a role in my past errors and past shortcomings. And my approach wasn't quite as self aware and wasn't quite as professional as what I thought it was. Not really, not fully and completely. And she showed me what professional, fully trained self awareness and psychology and proper formatting looks like when you've had appropriate training. So it's, the notes I've been taking for the last 4 days really opened my eyes to where areas where I could have possibly improved in my practice as a former church psychic, but I don't know if I would ever go back to that. I don't know if it would be appropriate to go back to that, but that's another issue for another day. I'm still trying to figure it out because my main thing is they say no greater name is the name than the name of Christ, but yeah, most Christians don't even know his real name and don't commit to it because they don't have no respect. So, I just kind of have some unresolved things I'm looking at in my own time and my own way. But anyway, getting back to the class. So, at the end of the class, like on day 4 of the free class, she walked us through a real remote viewing session. Okay. And I was busy with uh, making a beaded necklace and making a beaded bracelet for this Sunday because, I've picked up a new hobby. So making my cheap little jewelry, it kind of brings me peace. And, so I was doing that and doing some other stuff. So I kind of missed her live stream. So I was looking at the recording after she finished it, right? And it was really weird because the new techniques that she taught in day 4 of the class, it really dovetailed with just habits that I picked up from trying to do stuff by myself without anyone to teach me. So it's like little habits I picked up by myself with no one to teach me. I got to kind of expand on it with Lori's lesson. And it really felt kind of weird because with doing it in the expanded way, that kind of went a little bit beyond what I normally do. I started feeling things that I never felt before, like in a different kind of way. Like thinking about it kind of changed the experience of it completely. It's kind of weird. That's the best way I can say it. And like it turned out that the image of she actually had a picture. What she did was she gave us some coordinates 950102, and she gave us no information about what was at the coordinates. So I drew a squiggly line, like she said, and I processed the squiggly line in multiple different ways, the way she said. And while I was doing all that, like a really clear image popped into my head, but there was no color. I didn't get any color. Sometimes I do get color, but for this, I didn't get any color. And it's like while processing a squiggly line on paper, it turned out the landscape was actually shaped like my squiggly line. I felt like a gritty feeling between my toes and like kind of in one of my fingers. And it turned out there really was sand there. There really was a beach there. But what was kind of interesting to me is that in the image that popped up in my head, like I didn't see any of the boats that were in the water, okay? Like I could tell there was a beach there. I could tell there was water in the image that popped up in my head, but the weird thing is that my mind focused in on some black man who wasn't even in the picture. Really an extremely handsome, darker skinned guy with a lot of muscles, some really short dreadlocks, sitting on the sand. He was very handsome. The kind of guy who really wouldn't, under normal circumstances, wouldn't give someone like me the time of day because, for one, I don't look like a model. I don't have money, and I don't have white privilege, and I don't have a nose more like a white person. I'm not physically flawless, and I'm fat. So he's the kind of guy where even if he was broke and jobless, he would probably still be really mean to me and give me no time of day except for to attempt to use me and then move on to what he really wants. That's the kind of guy this looked like. And while I was looking at him in this image that popped up in my head, I felt pain in my vagina, like a real sharp pain in my vagina, like my body was saying, nope, you want to stay far, far away from that. You don't, like, it's like my mom's like, no, you don't want that. And aside from feeling a sharp stabbing pain in my vagina while I was seeing this mental image of this black man sitting on the beach, like I was also feeling pain at the top backside of the second mountain. I don't know what might have happened at the top backside of the second mountain in the picture, but while I was analyzing the squiggly line that turned out to actually match the contours of the landscape, which was surprising to me because I thought that I was just drawing contours of the water. I didn't think I was drawing contours of the land. But anyway, like the one thing that kept standing out to me a lot is that the sand the guy was sitting on is the sand is somewhere over by the buildings that appeared to the left of the boat in the picture. that's one part that stood out to me, where I think maybe he might have been sitting in the image, is the buildings to the left of the boats. But like in the two mountains that are covered with trees, like kind of a little bit towards the top of the second mountain, um on the back side of it, which faces the picture, like I don't know what it is, but I felt sharp pain there. It's like something happened there, and I don't know what it is. Maybe something bad might have happened to that man there. Maybe something bad might have happened to someone else. But like none of the boats in the water really came up for me. What really stood out to me was just the sand beside the buildings. This really handsome, gorgeous man who would never give me the time of day, even if he was homeless and jobless, except as a placeholder, this kind of guy. Like, him sitting like on sand, maybe in the area by the buildings in the picture, that was really standing out to me. In the top side, back side of the mountain that faces the picture, the second mountain. And it's something about him in those two spots, and something that happened up in those trees. I don't know, maybe somebody might have killed him, or something could have happened to somebody he knows. I don't know. But like, I'm really not good at stuff like this. And even though I kind of got the sand, beach, water part right, I'm missing so many fucking details that I'm just lost and confused and don't know why I saw the parts that I did see. And then the parts that didn't stand out to me at all, I don't know why those other parts didn't stand out at all. Like, I'm just fucking clueless. Like, the only thing I got right about the remote viewing session was the fact that there was sand and there was a beach, and the contour of the land itself, and the two specific locations, the one with the sand where the guy was probably sitting, and also the other part up on the second mountain, like near the top, like in them thick trees. That's literally the only parts I got. But even though I kind of got some of the details on the remote viewing session, there's still a lot of extra and additional details that I just didn't get at all. And in the lesson, the lady, she was saying to avoid nouns and avoid using nouns in your descriptions, so that if you're trying to help people to find something, you don't accidentally send them in the wrong direction. And with this practice exercise, I can clearly see where if I was trying to do this professionally, I could have easily sent somebody in the wrong direction. I could have thought that I was drawing a picture of waves on the water and not two mountains and a tall hill. I could have thought that the fuzzy I felt on the backside of the second one was hair or fur or whatever, and it turns out it was actually the tops of trees with thick tree cover. Like, like the only thing I got right about it was the beach part. But like, if I hadn't gone through the professional process that the woman described, I would have fucked up my whole remote viewing thing and just gave a totally wrong answer if I hadn't gone through the actual process. And if I had jumped too quickly to try to put labels on things that I was feeling and only catching the tiniest, most limited glimpses of. So with that said, she says that remote viewing is the survival skill of the future, or that it can be. and that it can help with trying to keep your family safe. And she was also saying it can be useful for learning hidden secrets about history. And she's someone who used to be a Christian missionary, and I don't know what faith or belief she has now. I have no idea. But some of her the symbols that I've seen on the advertisement for her class, the initial one, I recognize I recognize the basic form of those symbols because I used to see at least one of them. And I used to see one of them in a vision up in the mountains in Kentucky. Um, it appeared like Jews call it the Star of David. Hindus, they call it the Anahata symbol. But the way she uses the symbol, it appears more like how in the way that I saw it in a vision a couple years ago up in the mountains in Kentucky. That's kind of more like what it looked like for her usage of it. I've seen it before, with her usage of the so-called Star of David or Anahata, heart symbol. Um yeah, but overall, I think my first practice session, I feel like it was a success, but even though it was a success and I got some details, I'm still fucking clueless about a lot of shit. And that's basically like the story of the overwhelming majority of my experiences of premonitory dreams and visions and stuff, where I might have some stuff right and the other shit I'm just clueless or totally wrong. Like with this, the only thing I got right is that the coordinates were at a beach and that there is sand at the beginning part of the path. There is two big lumpy shapes which turned out to be mountains and not super tall waves. The water waves on the ocean are actually still. Like there's some things I got right and other things that popped up. I don't know why. There's some mystery there. Um and like I said, maybe I don't know or maybe I could have gotten distracted by the image of a muscular man with no shirt on the beach, because maybe my subconscious was just not focused enough. Maybe nothing happened to him. Maybe nothing happened to someone he knows. Maybe my subconscious was just drawn away from the target momentarily just because of an impression of him sitting there with no shirt on. Like, maybe he had nothing to do with the situation. Maybe my subconscious mind is just not focused because my mind was like, oh, hey, there's all this other stuff, but hey, look over there. There's a man. You can't see him in the picture, but he's right there. So I don't know. I don't know. Like I think taking the training class with this woman would probably be helpful in it could be helpful in doing a better job in my spiritual work instead of fucking up half the time. But it's like really expensive, and I just got some things that I need for my apartment. Things that I might not be able to get later if the ships from China stop moving. So I decided to get some things now because it might not be accessible to me later. So because I went ahead and did that, I really can't afford to pay what she's asking for in like the next 8 days. Maybe if I had like until next month, maybe I could do it. But for this month, I'm kind of tapped out because I just wanted to have some basic things for me to enjoy life before access to those few basic things might not be around. So, since I can't really afford to take her 6-week class right now, you know, I guess I'll just eventually just maybe just have to look at some books in the library. I'm not ready to get around to that subject yet, but eventually, I guess, I could maybe order some materials and go from there, because what she's asking for, like, even with the monthly payment plan, I just can't cover that yet. Maybe later, but right now, no, can't do it. So, I think the Lori at intuitivespecialist.com, I think she's a very talented teacher, and she did a really great job of why I haven't been detailed enough in my visions and predictive dreams. She gave a pretty good description of how I can be more detailed and how I can do better quality work in my visions and premonitory dreams and stuff. But I think maybe a better use for that would be just towards finding my best life and finding a better path for my stolen children. I think that would probably be the best use of development for me personally, because why I don't even know if there's any real value in cultivating skill for others, because what I've learned from spending so many years living around adults who didn't grow up in a community like the one I grew up in, what I've learned from living around these people of different races whose way of life just seems nothing like what I had growing up, like, at all. I've learned that why would anyone of any faith value what I might bring to the table as an older soul or as a spiritual worker? I'm not a traditional Christian anymore because I see some things wrong there. I'm not a pagan because I definitely see a whole lot wrong there too. I'm not in any particular camp because I see a hell of a lot of awful shit that I don't want to be a part of on both sides. And why would anyone from any of those factions want to partake in any development from me when they could just push me aside, ignore me, brush me out of the way, and go find someone of their own race to do it? Why would any church, why would any pagan group, why would any investigative agency, why would any archaeologist, why would any person in any profession, whether spiritual or practical, why would they want to benefit from anything I might have to offer after I have proper development, if what they really desire as human adults is to just find someone from their race, their religion, or their political faction to do it instead of me? Why should they buy anything from me? Why should they consult me for anything spiritually when they could just have one of their own to do it? And if none of their own can do it, then I know they're just going to ignore me anyway. And they're like, okay, well, let's see if we can train somebody to replace you. Like, what I felt when I engaged with Christians, when I engaged with pagans, what I felt is that they all felt confident that they can do better than me, they will do better than me, and I will never, ever be a significant part of any story in their eyes because they can always just find somebody else who's on their team. Pretty much. They're like, I understand that I really don't. I understand that I have little or no value in the eyes of most Christian spiritual workers and most pagan spiritual workers, and that's why I've pretty much mostly been brushed aside, disregarded, and ignored over and over and over again for 7 years on both sides. And with this woman, Lori, who's offering a master class, who just did this free master class for 4 days, she clarified the exact things that I struggled with for 7 years as a non-denominational Christian. She hit the nail right on the head, because she used to be a missionary herself, but the shortcomings that I was having and not really performance wise, I just, like I said, never have I ever had this level of feedback on why it is and how to correct that. And at the end of the day, even though this woman's free class was a huge help for me, okay, what if I did have money for the 6-week course? What would happen to me if I'm dealing with a teacher who has way more experience than me with this technique? And then on top of that, she's a human being with the instinctive part of human nature, which can be very, very, very biased, because I'm very familiar with that, with white folks, black folks, Mexicans, and whatnot. I know how deep the rabbit hole goes on every side of that fucking fence. And although she's doing a great service to the public by doing the free class, if I had the money for the 6-week paid class, what potential are there any potential problems that I could run into dealing with someone who's a lot better at that than I am? And the fact that I'm not a human being who looks like how she looks, I probably don't think like how she thinks. And these are very, very serious things to consider, because the price of being a female who does not look or think like the other females, the price of that can be pretty goddamn high in human society. And I'm not saying the woman's an evil person. I'm not saying that, but I am saying, okay, some spiritual workers are a whole lot more challenging and potentially problematic than what a lot of people might think, especially where race, politics, and culture is concerned. And so, although I've benefited so much from her free class, it's just open to any and everybody. Like, how do I know what may or may not happen to me if I'm engaging with other humans who are not the same type of human being I am on that other level? Like, I just don't know. It's not, human beings are not like Bambi, far from it, But either way it goes, I guess it's not an issue to think about too much, because I can't afford the 6-week class anyway. So I'll just leave it at the 4-day lesson and maybe get some books later, after I finish trying to figure out what the fuck I'm in the middle of now.